Hi, hello, welcome back to yet another episode on Little's Law YouTube channel. So today in this video we will see how to create a script, and I'm uploading this script in Git for your testing purpose, so you can use this script from my Git repository. So for now, let's see how to create a web application script using Neoload 9.0, and we will see some of the options which I wanted to show you today. So to know more, please watch the video until the end, and please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. I believe this video and the other videos in our channel on Neoload, Load Runner and JMeter would have been very useful to you, so please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. So with no further delay, let's move on to the video. So let's start how to record. So for starting the recording, we'll click on start recording button here, or we have option to record the button here, the red button, or even we can record it through the record button. So we can start the web recording. And once we click on new recording, we get this option where we can give the name for the user path. So I'm giving sign in, and under the web and under the general we have the Google Chrome browser, and we delete the cookies and we clear the cache before we run the test. And when we go to the advanced, here we can see the WebSocket, the Adobe RTMP protocol selected, and the HTTP/2 options, the protocols were selected. And there are two modes, one is the proxy mode and the other one is the tunnel mode, and for now we are choosing the proxy mode and we are not logging any network traffic. So let's click on OK and we'll start the recording. So let me click on continue, and by default we get this recording tab where we can give the transaction names while recording, and even we have this prefill option where we can choose, or we can enter the name for the user path, or we can give the name for the file. So we have the browser opened, so let's enter the transaction name as 01 and landing page. Let me give the URL here, which is petstore.octopuff.com. And now let us move to the next transaction, which is enter the store. I'm clicking on enter the store. And thirdly, I'm clicking on sign in. And now I enter the credential, and login. So now I have entered the credentials. I'm clicking on login. So we have now entered into the application. So here you can see this sign out button, my account. So this is going to be very quick script, and I'm clicking on logout and I'm clicking on sign out button. So the scripting has completed, and in fact we have two options here. One is the pause button and then the stop button, and I'm going to click on stop. And now the recording process, the finalizing the recording process is running. So let me close the browser to make sure we get all these server responses, and we'll wait for some more time to get it completed. And now let's click on the unwanted requests. So let me remove these requests from the script. So we just have this petstore.octopuff.com, and let's remove all the other requests, and I'm clicking on next, and then we'll click on again the next button, and now it will search for the dynamic parameters inside the script, something like the session ID or any other dynamic parameters that Neoload thinks that has to be correlated. So those parameters will be correlated dynamically using Neoload. Let me click on next and let's wait for a few more seconds to see, and I'm clicking on next again. And in the next step we have two options. One is using the recorded think times, and the next option is override think time with, I'm giving for now as 0 milliseconds. And let's go to next, and here I'm choosing this option since it has the JSession ID as part of this request and it's part of the form authentication selection. And let me click on next, and then this is the username that we have entered in the script. I'm clicking on next, and here's the password which will automatically be coming as part of the scripting. And then I'm clicking on next, and here there are two options. One is it asks for the use the recorded account, and it asks for the use multiple accounts. And when we choose multiple accounts, we have three options. So it will ask for using the account from the login password list, or using the account from the CSV file, or use an already predefined variable. If we have any predefined variables, we can automatically select from this location, or else if we have any CSV files, we can choose this option. And when we click on next, we get this option where we can import the CSV file, or we can choose this option and we can import the CSV file. So for now, let's go to the next step, which is clicking on next, and let me click no, and I will change the column name here, and this is going to be password, and the username and password is going to be, so let me just open it. And when we click on open, it will automatically open the file in a notepad format. So let's now move on to the next step. So before that, we'll change this name, which is login credential. Then let's go to next, and here we have the login column. So the file is now opening here, and the password is going to be the password column. And let's click on next, and then finally the finish. And before that, let's wait for this to get loaded, and let me click on finish. So now we have the script ready. So the first one, which is the landing page, and then the second one, which is the entering the store, and third one is the sign in, and the fourth one is entering the credential and login, and the fifth one is logout. So this is a very simple script, as I have told you earlier. So now let us see few quick things. So first thing is we will correlate the JSession ID, and let's see how to do that. And before that, let's disable the unwanted requests. And the reason I have disabled this request is I can show you. During the validation. So for now, let us correlate this JSession ID value. So before doing that, we have to flag the request, and for that I'm clicking on this particular request that we want to correlate. And here we have the flag request option, so I'm clicking on it. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to find where exactly is this JSession ID value was first displayed as part of the response. So I'm clicking on whose recorded response contains, and I'm clicking on, and I'm copy pasting it. And here we can see on the left hand side, so this is the first response where we get the JSession ID value. So what we are going to do now is we are going to get the response from this actions/catalog.action, and then pass the value to the JSession ID and to the other values. So first now let us go to advanced, and under advanced we will go to the variable extractors, and under variable extractors let's click on the plus symbol. And here there are four options. One is the body, so this will help us to extract the value from the body, and the next option is extracting the value from the header, and then both the body and header, and then if there is anything from the variable. So for now we will choose both, because this will cover the entire section, and the variable name is going to be JSessionID. And under the starting with, I'm clicking on this magnifier, the search button, and here we can see the set cookie where it shows JSessionID is equal to. So what we're going to do now is let us choose the left boundary, which is the JSessionID, and I'm clicking on pick selected text, and then I'm going back to end with, which is the right boundary, and here I'm going to choose just the semicolon. I'm clicking on pick selected text, and to confirm whether everything works fine, so here we can see the value extracted from the recorded content is the value here, which starts from FCD and ends at 6B. So here we can see starts with FCD and ended with 6B. So there are three options here. One is extracting all occurrences. If we see in the total body and the header, we could see there is only one option, and that is the FCD value, which is the session ID value. And even in case if we choose randomly extract any occurrence, there is just one, so don't need to worry about this part. And here we have different options. So like for example, if you want to choose the value which is a sentence followed by the sentence, so you can see here there is no value here, which means it's failure, and then a space, so followed by space again. These are various options of fixing or getting the value. So anywhere the choice is going to be any character, so any of these characters will fail, or any character except these will fail, or any character including the line breaks will work. So there are two options. So one is any character, so for now we'll choose any character, and in fact in occurs we have four options. One is 0 or once, so this will fail, and then when we go to 0 or many times, so here we can see this option that is extracted, and once only it will never work because it's not once only, and then once or many times, and here we can see this option. So for now let's go to 0 or many times, and let's have it for now. And in case if we want to add multiple conditions, we can even do that by clicking on this option, but for now we do not need that, so let us remove it by clicking on this minus symbol, which will delete the extraction values, and we will try with these options with one of the other examples. So for now we are good to go. So let's go to the test, and here we can see the test variable, and we can even set, if it is an error we can set the default value to not found, and it will even throw an assertion error. And let's click on OK. So we have created a regular expression which will pick the value, and let's go to OK. So now we have picked the value. So now we have to we have correlated we have extracted the value, but we have to now pass the value to all the other requests. So for that, what we have to do now is let's copy this value, because this is the one that we are going to correlate, and go to this search and replace, and in this the first option is search in the request definition globally, and click on next. So the string we are going to search for is the one that starts with the FCD, and what we are going to replace the string with is the JSessionID, and I'm clicking on OK, and I'm clicking on next. So when we click finish, we could see that this value is in this particular request. So let me click on replace, and then it has come here in this particular request header. So I'm clicking on replace, and then for this image the value is coming again in the request header. So I'm clicking on replace, and then for the fish.gif, yes, replace, and docs.gif. So let me replace with all the other requests. So whatever the values that we want it to get correlated, so we can replace the values with the JSession ID. So every time in the next sessions, whenever the value changes, automatically the value will be correlated and will be passed in this request. And let me click on the replace in this particular sign in screen, because this is a very important screen where the user logs in. So I'm clicking on replace, and even in this path again we have this JSession ID. So I'm clicking on replace, and the next one is the account.action, because once we log into the application, automatically the user session will be carried out. So I'm clicking on next to replace, and then another replace, and then the catalog.action, where we have the values in the request headers, because this is quite important, because most of the times we might change the values in the request, but we might miss the values here in this JSession ID. So we will replace this again, and then in the banner fish.gif, so I'm replacing it again. And then finally we have now come to the logout transaction. So let's click on replace, and then finally in the catalog.action I'm clicking on replace. So now we have got this message where all the results have been replaced. So I'm clicking on OK, and then let's save this script. So the next part which we are going to see here is we have to parameterize the value, and for that we will have to go to the username.param. And now let's create a notepad with the files. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give the username and the password, and let me save this project under the Neoload. Under the sample projects. So let me just close it for now. And what I'm going to do here is let me create. So we already have the accounts. So what we're going to do now is let us replace this values here, and I will replace the value in here. So it is going to be 1 and 1. So we have username and we have password, which is part of the account. So let's remove all the other parameter files. I'm just choosing everything and I'm removing it. So we just only have the accounts with the username and password. So in case if we want to add more records, we can add it by column, or else if we want to have it something like a file, even we can do that. And for that, let's accounts login, and let's choose this one. And what I'm going to do now is let me change it to text, and I'm opening it now. And now when I'm clicking on open, I automatically get this option. So what I'm going to do now is 1,1. So in this option we can have any number of values. So here we can see. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make it to 2 columns by using just the comma, and when I click on refresh we get 2 comma. So this is how the column separator works. So we have to use the correct comma column separator. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to change the column name, which is the username, and then the password. And here I'm choosing on each iteration. So I have separate videos detailed on these, how does this value change policy and how to do the parameterization in a separate video. So please do check the playlist and get the video. I have even give the description of all these videos in the description section. So if you really want to know more about this, please do check those videos. And now I'm clicking on OK, and I'm clicking on apply, and let's go to the credential part. And what I'm going to do now is giving a dollar symbol, giving the bracket and accounts login username, clicking on OK, and let's go to the username password, the password value, and it's account dot password, and let me click on OK. So now we have parameterized the username and password, and I'm clicking on save. So the next part which I'm going to see, which I'm going to tell you here is, when you see here the request type, there are four options. One is using the manual definition. The second one is follow the redirect of the previous request. The third one is follow a link from the previous request, and the third one is follow a link from the previous request, and the fourth one is submit a form from the previous request. So have you ever used this, or have you ever checked how does this work? So under this using a manual definition, here we can see this method is a post method, since it enters or it sends value to the server, and the post content form is a form type. So in fact here, if you see, when I click on none, automatically the form type has been changed, but when I click on form, automatically you can see here they come as a post parameters. But if it is none, they are just a request parameter, and there is no URL path parameters. At the same time, when I'm giving, or when I'm choosing the multi-part form data, we can see here that format has been completely changed. And then when I'm going to MIME, the MIME option, here we can see we can enter the values in a different format using the content type, the content ID, the content transfer encoding. And when we go to the text format, so it works this way. Even this format will be working, or this format will come for many of the transactions, and it might work, and that's the benefit of using it. So we can send the parameters in any format using Neoload, and then the binary. So even you can see here the username and password will automatically be populated here, but every time when you change this format, make sure you update the right values. So we'll now go back to the form format, and the next option which we have here is follow the redirect of the previous request. So when we click on this, this will ask for the change the referer. In case if you want to change the referer, we can choose it, because in most of the scenarios what will happen is this particular request will pick the right option. So make sure you have the right request type. And then we have the third option, which is the follow a link from the previous request, and when we click on it, this will again work like the form format, but then it is quite different because it adds a value which is extract and variable, and this will give us a path and where we can use the regular expressions. So this is quite different from the follow the redirect of the previous request, but it's quite similar to the user manual definition with the form format. And then the last one is submit a form from the previous request, and here you can see this is quite similar to the follow a link from the previous request, because this will choose the link matching the following definition. But when we choose the submit a form from the previous request, it has chosen a different format, but it has populated all the values. And since we can see here all the other way of posting the content type, which is the multi-form part of form data. So for now, let's go back to the user manual definition, and in this screen we can see here that it asks for the catalog.action with follow the redirect of the previous request. So what we can do is we can choose the user manual definition, and this will bring it to a normal format. So what we're going to do now is, so far we have created a script, we have correlated it, and we have parameterized it, and we have even see the request types in Neoload. So let's now save this script and let's do a validation, and let me click on start checking. So the validation of the script has started, and every script is working fine because the response code shows 200, which is a valid response code. And with that, I think we have successfully created and validated this script. And let's check the correlated value here. When we go to the variables section in the results section, so here there are three options. One is the details, the next one is the variables, and the third one is the servers. And in the details, there are options to see the request, response, and assertions. So when we go to the request, we can see here that this is the JSession ID value that has been populated for this session, and it will also tell us what are the values that are getting passed during this session. So we can see here this is a get method which passes this variable, and the form is HTTP 2.0, and then the other values are like which user agent it is using. So here we can see it handles the Mozilla user agent, it handles the AWK, which is the Apple WebKit, or the Chrome. So all these user agents are being used in here, and the cookie value and the JSession ID value here is populated. And when we go to the response, so here we can see the first one is the 200 response code, which means the request, the response is valid. And the next one we can see here, where we can see the response from the web page. And then when we go to the assertion, so there are no any assertion errors. And then there is an option where we can compare the request. So when I click on this compare with the recording, so here we can see, because this is quite an important one when you do the scripting, because this will help you to understand the differences between the recording and the replaying script. So here we can see the differences between the session ID. So here you can see, so this was the validation test and this was the one that was recorded, and here we can see the differences between both the recorded and the validation request. And even we can choose it, we can see it through the petty format. And then when we go to the parameter and cookie, so here we can see clearly, so when we just choose this, we can see clearly like this is the value that was recorded, and this is the value that is on the left side is being the validation value. Let's click on close and go back to the response. So even here we can choose this compare with the recording, and we can just compare whether we get the actual value. So here we can see this value is differed during the recording and during the validation. And then we can click on this button to see the response in the browser format. And even if we want to save the response, we can save this response in a format so that we can just check it. And then when we go to the variables, we have already seen that. So this is the value that was extracted during the validation, and this is the server that was used for testing. So when I clicked on the globe button, so we can see, so this is how the screen pops up. And then when we go to the response of this screen, so here we can see the page has been logged in, and we can see the sign out button, this page. With that, I think we have discussed most of the main concepts of correlation parameterization and the request types in this video, and we have seen about this request, response, and assertions, and we have seen how to compare the request and response. So now what we will do is we will move this script to GitHub, so that I think you can take this script and try it and see how does it work. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to export the project, so without any test results, and I'm clicking on next. So let me move it to the desktop. So now the project will be zipped, and I'm clicking on save, and I'm clicking on next, clicking on another next. So this will compress the file, and now the file has been compressed. So I'm clicking on finish. So now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to log into github.com. So now I'm into the GitHub page. I'm going to the little slaw repository. and I'm going to add the file. I'm going to just upload the file which I have created. And let me click on choose your file, or I can even drag and drop my file. So I have dragged and dropped the file, and it is sample project.zip is uploaded here. I'm clicking as sample Neoload project, and I'm clicking a new branch which is Neoload scripts, and I'm clicking on propose change. This will take some time to pull it, so I'm clicking on create pull request. So finally I have uploaded my script in the Neoload script branch. So I will paste this link in the description. If you want, you can download the script and use it, and you can just try and see how does it work. So I believe this video would have been very useful to you. Please do subscribe to our channel, like, share and comment your questions and feedbacks in the comment section. We will meet in another interesting session in our next video. Until then, it's bye from Vasan Shanmugam and Little's Law.